Single black dad's last meal for a homeless woman revealed an unexpected, life-changing journey. Marcus wiped the sweat off his brow, stifling a yawn as the city's pulse thrummed around him. The steel and glass giants of Chicago loomed like sentinels, watching over his every move. With only 30 minutes to spare, he rushed to his favorite corner pizza joint. Deep dish was a luxury he rarely indulged in these days, but today felt different. Zoe, his vibrant 6-year-old, had drawn a crayon picture of a pizza, and the thought of her mashing her little fingers in melted cheese brought a smile to his tired face. After snagging the last slice, the rich aroma teased his senses. He settled down on a park bench, close enough to hear the laughter of children playing nearby. The warmth of the sun on his skin was a brief reminder of better times before the multiple low-wage jobs, and the exhausting demands of solo parenting consumed his days. He took a deep breath and savored that glorious slice with every bite. But that blissful moment shattered when a disheveled woman approached him. Grace. Her clothes, once neat, were now tattered. Her eyes piercing but vacant spoke of burdens far too heavy for one soul. As she stood there, her gaze locked onto his meal, the weight of it hit him. She looked hungry, desperate. Something in his chest tightened. "Sir, could I have a bite?" Her voice held a tremor, a hint of dignity clinging on by a thread. In an unexpected surge of empathy, Marcus offered her half of his slice. That simple act ignited a connection that felt electric. Their conversation flowed in fits and starts, awkward laughter punctuating the heavy air between them. They spoke about life, about feeling invisible in a bustling world, about the struggles they faced in a society quick to judge. Grace told him she had been a nurse, a dedicated one, passionate about her work, until life twisted and turned, leaving her in the depths of despair. As she shared stories of her patients' faces full of hope, love, laughter, Marcus felt an ember of passion ignite within him. He couldn't help but wonder if he could help her reclaim the spark she once had. But shadows loomed large on his horizon. A layoff at his second job rattled him to the core. The thought of financial security for Zoe felt tantalizingly close, yet the idea of abandoning Grace tore at his soul. What would it say about him? Could he truly turn his back on someone who needed help? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The community meeting loomed ahead, and Marcus felt as if the walls were closing in. A heated debate about homelessness erupted, voices rising and colliding. Each word felt like a battle cry, echoing the struggles of so many. People need help, not judgment. He wanted to shout. But as a single father, could he afford to help the likes of Grace? Would their struggles be intertwined from here on out? Or would he risk it all in the pursuit of a better life? He looked at Grace sitting alone, a tapestry of hope and despair woven together. Tears welled in his eyes. He was standing at a crossroads. Could kindness truly spark change? Or would he let economic pressure claw him away from the powerful bond they had formed? The tension hung thick like fog, leaving him breathless as he contemplated his next move. As the echoes of voices faded into the background, Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of decisions loomed heavily above him. Could one act of kindness alter the course of someone's life? He glanced again at Grace. Her eyes searched for something, maybe hope, maybe a lifeline. A strong feeling of determination surged within him. In that moment he made a decision. He wasn't just a single father. He was part of a larger community, one that had a responsibility to care for its members. Something stirred inside him, igniting a deep-seated desire to act, to make a difference not just for Zoe, but for Grace and others like her. But was it too much to take on? "Grace," he started, the words coming out before he had time to backtrack. "What if I help you? Really help you?" The proposal sent a tremor through the air, and he felt her gaze intensify. "Help me? Why would you do that?" Her voice steadied, filled with both disbelief and curiosity. It tugged at his heart. "Because I believe everyone deserves a second chance. You were a nurse, right? That essay calling, not just a job, You have so much to offer, he said, feeling the energy shift between them. As she processed his words, a flicker of light ignited in her eyes. Do you really mean that? Her voice softened, and for a moment, hope danced on the surface of her exhaustion. Yes, he replied with more conviction than he felt. Let us find a way to get you back on your feet. I can help connect you with resources, maybe even find some work. You could get back to doing what you love. But just as he was about to dive deeper into the conversation, an all too familiar voice interrupted him. Marcus, there you are. It was Keith, his neighbor and self-appointed watchdog, sweeping in with boisterous energy. What are you doing over here? Keith asked, glancing at Grace with an eyebrow raised. You've got to get home to Zoe. The kid's waiting. Marcus felt the heat rising in his cheeks, caught between wanting to help and racing against the clock. I'm just get to it. You know they're making breakfast for dinner tonight. Your favorite. Keith grinned, nodding enthusiastically. Great. Another reminder of what awaited him at home. Guilt twisted in his gut as he turned back to Grace, who now wore an expression that was a mix of hope and sadness. Can I think about it? She asked hesitantly, pulling her gaze away as if afraid to cling to the possibility he offered. Of course, he replied, his heart aching for her. I'll be here tomorrow. Let us talk more then. Keith clapped him on the shoulder, nudging him away from the bench and pulling him back toward the thrumming heart of the city. The sounds of laughter and bustling activity swirled around him, but his mind was far away. As they walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was leaving behind more than just a chance for Grace. He was carrying the weight of each person's struggles like a backpack strapped to his back. That night, as Marcus tucked Zoe into bed, her innocent face looked up at him. Daddy, are we going to help that lady again? Her words hung in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. I hope so, sweetheart, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. But in his heart, he wondered if he had the strength to follow through. That sleepless night, beneath the weight of uncertainty, he made a vow to figure it out somehow. Tomorrow would be different, he would take the first step toward change. But as he closed his eyes, he couldn't help but dwell on the question that loomed in his mind. Would he be able to create a ripple of hope when faced with overwhelming odds? The question echoed into the night. Could kindness truly transform lives? Starting with just one shared meal? Morning light crept through the gaps in the curtains, gently nudging Marcus awake. He blinked against the brightness, the events of yesterday bubbling back to the surface. He could still see Grace's cautious smile, hear the tremor in her voice as she pondered his offer. Zoe's laughter floated in from the kitchen, the sound wrapping around him like a warm blanket. He hurried through his morning routine, fueled by a mix of excitement and anxiety. Maybe today would be the day they started to turn things around. Maybe today would be the day he would keep his promise. As he entered the kitchen, the smell of pancakes filled the air. Zoe bounced in her chair, her little hands busy stacking pancakes like a tower. Look, Daddy. It's a pancake fortress, she exclaimed, eyes sparkling with pride. It's impressive, he said, giving her a quick peck on the forehead. But I think we need to add some syrup for a proper defense. They both giggled as they dug into the fluffy pancakes. Between bites, his mind wandered back to Grace. He needed to reach out to her to show her that she mattered. Zoe, how about we do something nice today? He asked, testing the waters. With the lady? She replied, her eyes wide with hope. Yeah, with Grace, he confirmed. Each time he said her name, it felt more real, more tangible. It made him believe this could work. After breakfast, Marcus grabbed his keys and wrapped a light jacket around his shoulders. Zoe hugged her stuffed bear tightly as they made their way toward the park. Walking through the city, Marcus felt an electricity in the air. The sun cast golden rays over the sidewalks, illuminating faces as people hurried by. There was life here, a pulse. Perhaps it was that pulse he needed to help Grace find again. When they arrived at the park, Marcus's heart raced. He scanned the area, searching for her familiar frame. There it was. Grace sat on the same bench, her head bent forward as if caught in deep thought. He swallowed. This was it. Grace, he called gently. Her head snapped up and their eyes locked. For a moment it was as if time froze. Marcus, she said, her surprise evident. And Zoe, you came back. We wanted to see how you were, Marcus replied, motioning for Zoe to step closer. We thought maybe we could share some breakfast. Oh, I don't want to put you out. Grace started, her voice uncertain. But Zoe piped in, we have pancakes. And they're really yummy. Grace's expression softened, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly. Pancakes, huh? Sounds delightful. They settled on the bench with their breakfast spread. As they shared their meal, Zoe chattered away, oblivious to the serious undertones swirling among the adults. It was a simple breakfast, yet in that moment it felt monumental. I used to make pancakes for my patients, Grace said, her voice quiet. It was my way of connecting with them. Food has that power. I wish I could do that again. Marcus felt a pang of understanding. Why can't you? You deserve to share that gift again. Her gaze dropped, shadows crossing her features. It's not that easy. I have so much to overcome. Suddenly Zoe flared her arms wide, spilling syrup all over her mini fortress. They both burst into laughter. Grace's tension eased even if just for a moment. See, Marcus offered softly. You can create hope just like those pancakes. You can start small, a meal, a kindness, anything. Grace looked at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Do you really think so? Absolutely, he said, full of conviction. And I'm here to help you take those steps. You're not alone. The rawness of the moment settled like dust in the air between them. For the first time, a future seemed possible. They had just begun to build something, an unexpected journey of healing, perhaps even friendship. But as they finished their meal, an unsettling thought crossed Marcus's mind. Would Grace take the leap? Did she truly believe she could start again? And deep down he wondered if helping her would change him too. Would they together unearth strengths neither knew they had? Before he could voice his thoughts, a shadow approached, blocking the sunlight. It was a man, rugged and wild-eyed. The instant silence settled in the air, thick with uncertainty. What's going on here? He growled. Marcus's heart raced. What would happen next? Marcus's throat tightened as the man loomed over them, his shadow casting a chilly pall over the once warm breakfast scene. The man's eyes darted from Marcus to Grace, then back again, searching for a crack in their composure. Are you with her? He barked, pointing at Grace, his voice rough like gravel. Zoe shrank back behind Marcus, clutching her bear with a mix of fear and confusion. Yes, we are, Marcus said firmly, trying to project calm. We just shared some breakfast. The man scoffed, his narrowed eyes flickering with skepticism. Look at you. Who are you to help her? You don't know what she's really about. Enough. Marcus surprised himself with the force behind his voice. She's not just somebody to be judged. She's a person just like you and me. And she deserves kindness. A moment passed, electric and taut, before he added with a softer tone, we're all just trying to find our way. Grace's quick intake of Marcus's heart raced as he turned to face the voice. The newcomer, a tall figure in a worn uniform, strode toward them with purpose. The way he looked at the small gathering, sensing the latent tension, made Marcus wish he could pull the scene back, rewind time just a few moments. Hey! The uniformed man barked again, reaching them with a hurried stride. What's going on here? Are you all right? His eyes flickered between Marcus, Grace, and the uncertain stranger. The man who had challenged them stood a little taller, grounding himself in defiance. These people, he gestured toward Grace and Zoe, they think they can just take me for a ride, act like they're on some noble quest. Hold on, the newcomer said, raising a hand. I'm not here to take sides. I just want to make sure everyone's safe. There was an undertone of concern in his voice as he studied the group, trying to gauge the shifting dynamics. Safe from what? Marcus asked, the remnants of anxiety piercing his tone. Grace just wants to have breakfast. We all do. The officer seemed taken aback by Marcus's determination. Listen, I get it. But I need to know why you're in this part of town. Especially with the kid. The officer nodded toward Zoe, who was still timidly clutching her bear, a silent witness to this unraveled scenario. Zoe took a small step forward, emboldened by the earlier connection. We just wanted to help, she said, her voice steady. Miss Grace is having a hard time, and so is that man. She pointed toward the stranger, her innocence cutting through the tension with surprising clarity. The officer's brow softened slightly. Okay. But I need to keep the peace around here. You don't know what's out here. There are people who might take advantage of you. Grace finally found her voice, stepping forward. I promise we're not here to cause trouble. I'm working on myself. It's hard and I want to take steps to get better. Her vulnerability cracked the surface of the officer's stoic facade. Hard is an understatement for many, the officer replied, eyes narrowing. But I've seen too many good people broken by bad choices, and it makes me want to protect them. Marcus's chest tightened at the weight of that statement. He could sense the struggles reflected, the difficult choices that loomed invisible to the outside world. We get that, he responded, his tone softer. But sometimes seeking help is the first step. Isn't that what we're all trying to do? The man's arms relaxed, dropping from the defensive cross. There was a brief moment where Marcus thought the officer might see the truth in what he was saying. Everything shifted as the old scowls faded, replaced by contemplation. Suddenly, another figure appeared, emerging quickly from the shadows, an older woman, hair disheveled but eyes alert, her presence electric with urgency. Hey David, she shouted to the officer, catching everyone by surprise. You need to save my son. What? The officer turned sharply, confusion evident on his face. Is he in trouble? The woman rushed closer, her breath short. Yes, with a group down by the tracks, things got out of hand. You have to come. Fear filled the air with a palpable weight. It twisted Marcus's stomach. What do you mean things got out of hand? The woman's eyes darted back, panic swirling through them. They're fighting over scraps and some have weapons. You have to help. Stay here. The officer commanded as he rushed toward her grasp, seeking answers. The world around them blurred. Marcus's heart hammering with tension. Zoe edged closer to Grace, an echo of worry in her eyes. What does that mean? She whispered. A grim realization washed over Marcus. Just when he thought understanding could blossom, chaos threatened to uproot it all. Could they really stay safe in this moment? Or needed they to face the storm outside? As the reality sank in, he held Grace's hand tightly, summoning the courage to share their next steps in this unpredictable journey ahead. What would it take to turn fear back into hope? The officer, David, was already sprinting down the alley, a flicker of urgency propelling him forward. His footsteps echoed against the brick walls, the sound contradictory to the quiet vulnerability of their gathering. Marcus stood frozen for a moment, the enormity of the woman's words sinking in like a stone in water. What do we do? Grace whispered, anxiety threading through her voice. Marcus turned to her, searching for direction in the thickening fog of uncertainty. We can't just stand here. We need to help, or at least make sure Zoe is safe. Zoe nodded, her eyes wide but her grip on her bear steady. I want to help, she declared, a spark of determination igniting within her small frame. With a deep breath, Marcus glanced down the alley where the chaos was rumored to be brewing. Okay, let us stick together. We can't let fear hold us back. They slowly moved toward the path the officer had taken, Grace by his side. The shadows loomed large and menacing, whispering secrets that Marcus wished he didn't have to decipher. As they turned the corner, the dull roar of commotion became tangible, the sounds of raised voices and muffled shouts enveloping them like a thick blanket. Marcus could see a gathering of figures at the end of the alley, waving arms and jostling bodies. The fight over scraps had escalated into something primal, something desperate. Stay close, he instructed as he crouched slightly, readying himself to react, to protect. His heart hammered violently, each beat echoing the looming dread that something catastrophic could happen any second. Grace squatted beside him, her eyes scanning the scene just ahead. We need to intervene, maybe distract them? Or we could get caught in the middle of it. I don't want Zoe getting hurt, Marcus responded, glancing back at Zoe. The girl had squeezed her bear so tightly it was like an extension of her little arm, her eyes darting between them. The sound of glass shattering suddenly pierced the air, a jolt that sent chills racing down Marcus's spine. Panic erupted in the crowd as someone yelled, "Back off! Let us go!" Marcus shouted, grabbing Grace's hand and moving instinctively toward the source of the chaos. As they ventured further down the alley, figures began to part slightly, revealing a group of teenagers embroiled in a scuffle over items hastily strewn across the ground: clothes, food, belongings the world had forgotten. They were all desperate. When they got close enough, Marcus realized that amidst the chaos, people were fighting not just for survival but for dignity. There was a heavy weight of hopelessness in those shouts, an urgency that sent a flood of empathy through him. Hey! Marcus raised his voice, not just for attention but for connection. We're not here to disrupt, we're here to help. He felt Grace tighten her grip on his arm, her eyes wide, full of a mixture of fear and hope. Zoe moved closer to Grace, peeking around Marcus's leg. In the chaos, a sharp gaze landed on Marcus, a young man. Cuffs rolled up his sleeves and wild hair framing his face. Help! What can you do? We're fighting for what little we have left. His voice boomed through the commotion, but the glint of pain behind his words caught Marcus off guard. Look, this isn't the way. Marcus called back, feeling the weight of every word. There has to be a better way to settle this. For a brief moment, silence fell over the group. The yelling subsided as the young man narrowed his eyes, evaluating Marcus, weighing his intentions. Then, with a defiant swagger, he stepped forward, breaking the tension with a challenge. And what do you propose we do? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. An unsettling silence fell, and Marcus felt the urgency rise within him. This could be the turning point. Could he turn this chaotic moment into something bigger? With a surge of adrenaline, he took a breath, ready to act. We can't just fight over scraps. How about we work together to find real solutions? Could his words spark something? This was the moment that might change everything, but would anyone listen? The air felt charged as Marcus stood at the edge of the chaos, every heart thump echoing in his ears like a countdown. He felt small in front of those wild eyes, each filled with their own hurt, their own story. The young man didn't step back, he shifted closer, a gesture both aggressive and curious. Work together? You think that's going to magically fix our lives? He challenged, throwing a glance back at the throng behind him, who exchanged wary glances. Sometimes it starts with a conversation, Marcus replied, pulling at the threads of his own uncertainty. Grace's grip tightened. He could feel Zoe's tiny presence behind him, a silent anchor rooting him to the present. Their uncertainty melted into resolve with each tick of the seconds, setting his heart ablaze with determination. Fine. Let us talk. But you better have something worth hearing. The young man spat, arms crossed defiantly across his chest. It felt monumental, almost sacred. Marcus took a step forward, lifting his chin as he searched for the right words. What if we set aside fighting for a moment? What if we shared what we have? He gestured back toward where they came from. Food, clothes, knowledge. What if we pooled together all of our resources? Gradually, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. The young man narrowed his eyes, contemplating. It's nice to talk about what we can do, but it's us versus the world. You don't know what that feels like. Marcus nodded, a lump forming in his throat. You're right. I don't. But I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed, to feel helpless. We're all fighting our own battles. What if we shared that fight? Zoe tugged at Grace's sleeve, her voice like a crystal bell. We can share our snacks. And maybe make some new friends. The innocence of her words punctured the heaviness for a brief moment, causing half-hearted chuckles to erupt from those nearby. The young man's stony expression faltered. The kid has a point, even if it's just food, it gives us a chance to talk, he admitted reluctantly. We all have stories, don't we? Grace chipped in, her confidence blossoming before Marcus's eyes. Let us hear each other out. We don't know who might be able to help. A flicker of realization crossed the young man's gaze, and he turned slightly, looking back at the others. His posture softened just a notch. All right, let us hear what you got, but don't think we'll just take your word for it. With a collective breath, Marcus looked around at the gathering, although still wary, began to inch closer, drawn by a glimmer of curiosity. Each person carried the weight of their struggle, but within them was a shared humanity that could bridge their divides. What we really need, Marcus said, is to understand one another. No matter where we come from, we can find a way forward together. The sentiment hung in the air, hopeful and fragile, ready to either shatter or bloom. As the crowd shifted, a few people stepped back, still skeptical, but several others pulled nearer, eager to listen. Life had taught them to distrust, but perhaps learning was just as powerful a force. Zoe curled her fingers around her bear, glancing up at Marcus with innocent wonder. In that moment, he realized the fight they had stepped into was no longer merely for survival. It was about connection. But just as emotions began to shift, a loud crash echoed from the other end of the alley, breaking the fragile moment. The young man spun around, instinctively taking a defensive stance. What was that? he growled, fear creeping back into his eyes. Marcus's heart dropped as he felt the shift in energy, wondering what threat lurked just out of sight. Would this chance for unity be shattered before it even began? Their fates now intertwined. Marcus felt the enormity of what lay ahead. We need to check it out, he said, voice steady but his pulse racing. We're in this together now. Would they stand united against whatever came next? Or would fear pull them apart once more? The alley ahead loomed dark and ominous, the answers waiting just beyond the shadows. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to steady the tremors spiraling through his heart. The crash echoed again, louder this time, a jagged sound that sliced through the tangled emotions coursing through the crowd. He cast a glance at Zoe, who stared up at him wide-eyed and curious. He forced a smile, one that felt more like a mask than reassurance. Let us go see what it is, he urged, taking a step forward. He felt the energy in the group shift, a mixture of fear and curiosity. Grace and Zoe nodded with him, while the young man hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his features. All right, he finally muttered, his defensive posture still tense. But stay behind me. Marcus fell into step beside him, leading the way as the crowd began to follow. The voices of the hesitant turned to whispers, and the air thickened with apprehension. Each footfall echoed loudly in the tight alley, a rhythm that pulsed with unease and anticipation. They rounded a corner, following the crash's sound. Another crash reverberated, this one distinctly human. A heavy thud against metal that sent a chill racing down Marcus's spine. A pile of trash bags lay strewn across the path, and there amidst the chaos was the source of the noise. A woman, her clothes tattered, scrambling to gather her belongings. Fearful eyes darted up, her breath quick between panic and determination. No, don't take it, she pleaded, her voice hoarse. She froze as they approached, pressed against the wall, a haunting image of desperation. Marcus felt a pang of recognition slicing through him. He thought of the days he had scraped to get by, when all he had was his survival instinct and a sliver of hope. Hey, we're not here to hurt you, he said, raising his hands in a placating gesture. What happened? The woman Marcus grabbed the woman's arm gently but firmly, urging her to hurry. Come on. We can talk somewhere else. The urgency in his voice drew the attention of everyone there. Grace quickly moved to flank the woman, her eyes scanning the alley for further danger, while Zoe stood still, clutching her bag of snacks tightly. Over here. Marcus guided them toward a narrow side street, less visible from the main thoroughfare. They slipped into a small break between two buildings, where the shadows stretched long and deep. The laughter from the alley faded, but Marcus felt no relief. The threat still loomed large in his mind. Is this safe? The woman asked, breathing hard, her eyes darting back toward the alley. It's safer for now, Marcus reassured her, though he felt the weight of doubt settle heavily on his shoulders. What's your name? Celia, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I only wanted to. I just wanted. Her words faltered as a tear escaped down her cheek. Zoe, sensing the fragile atmosphere, stepped forward again. We have snacks, Celia. They're really good. She opened the bag, revealing a few granola bars, some crackers and a hastily wrapped sandwich. Celia's eyes softened at the sight. You brought that for me? Yeah, Zoe said, her face lighting up. You can have it. For a brief moment, the horror of the alley faded as Celia's hand reached towards Zoe's offering. She hesitated, the fight in her fading, replaced by a flicker of something else, hope, perhaps. Thank you, she whispered, her voice cracking. The young man leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his tough demeanor still intact. We really should be moving, he said, glancing nervously toward the street. Listen, Marcus interjected, trying to rally the group. We're not going to just leave her here. What if we all stay together? We can figure something out. His voice carried a weight of determination that seemed to touch everyone, including the guarded young man. Celia took a shaky breath, gripping the snack bag like it held her future. I don't know if I can stay where they could find me again. Where do you usually go? Marcus pressed gently, not ready to let her slip away into the shadows again. There's an old warehouse, but it has been raided so many times. Her voice trailed off, revealing the depths of her despair. Could we help you find somewhere safer? Grace suggested, stepping forward with resolve. There's strength in numbers. Celia's gaze shifted among the group, her eyes hesitant. She was a woman trapped in a cycle, yet here she was surrounded by strangers reaching out their hands. What if it doesn't work out? What if it does? Marcus countered. We can try together. You're not alone anymore. As whispers of possibility flared within the small group, another crash echoed ominously from the alley. The young man shot up straight, ready at a moment's notice. They're coming. No. Celia's face twisted with panic. We need to go now. Stay close, Marcus instructed sharply. They formed a tight circle around her, a shield of solidarity. As they began to head deeper into the heart of the backstreets, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that fate had placed them there for a reason. The path ahead felt uncertain, and yet the warmth generated between them knitted together something beautiful. What was once a splintered group now stood united against the dark possibilities threatening to consume them. But just as they turned a corner, a shout rang out, chilling Marcus's spine. Was it from the gang? Panic set in, tightening his throat. Run! He ordered. What awaited them in the unknown? Would they escape the darkness looming behind them? Or would they have to confront whatever lay in their path? The mad scramble through the winding alleys felt surreal. Marcus pushed Celia and Zoe ahead of him, adrenaline surging as the echoing shouts faded behind them. They weren't just fleeing. They were weaving a new tapestry of hope, each footfall dictating their resolve. Stay close, he called, glancing back to see Grace keeping the young man near. She was a steady presence, her brows furrowed in determination as they dashed through the cluttered streets. Where to? Grace shouted, her voice ringing with urgency. Just keep moving. We'll figure it out, Marcus responded, his heart pounding against his ribs. They turned another corner, and suddenly the winding paths opened up into a small deserted plaza. The midday sun bathed everything in a golden glow, but the beauty felt surreal against their circumstances. Over there behind those crates, Marcus pointed, guiding everyone toward a cluster of stacked boxes that could offer a bit of cover. They ducked behind them, trying to catch their breath. Do you think we lost them? Zoe whispered, her little voice trembling. I hope so, Marcus replied, looking into her innocent eyes. He could see how scared she was, and it only fueled his determination to keep her safe. Celia hovered next to Zoe, visibly shaken but aware of the comfort the child offered. Thank you for helping me, Celia murmured, her voice shaky with vulnerability. We're all in this together, Grace assured her, gentleness woven through every syllable. You don't have to go back out there alone. But as they huddled together, the air thick with uncertainty, they could hear distant footsteps approaching, their hurried pace telling of trouble looming around the next bend. We need a plan, the young man said, the bravado cracking slightly. Agreed, Marcus replied, his mind racing. How about we create a distraction? If they come looking for Celia, we can lead them in the other direction. Are you sure? Celia looked between them, anxiety etching her features. What if something happens? We won't let anything happen to you, Grace promised, her hand gripping Celia's in a reassuring gesture. Gathering his resolve, Marcus nodded firmly. We're a team now. Let us use that to our advantage. They began to formulate a plan, voices low yet engaged. Marcus would split off with the young man to draw attention while Grace, Celia, and Zoe would slip away in the opposite direction, where there were more shadows to hide behind. Just as they prepared to execute their plan, the footsteps grew louder, and Marcus could feel his heartbeat quickening with urgency. Now, we're counting on each other. As they broke from their cramped sanctuary, Marcus and the young man sprinted forward, yelling and waving their arms to grab the attention of the shadows hovering near the plaza. Hey, over here! Marcus bellowed, backing away for dramatic effect. The moment they spotted him, the shadows surged forward, drawn to the commotion. Behind him he caught sight of Grace gripping Celia's arm, urging Zoe along as they darted off to safety. Marcus's heart raced, but he couldn't let fear win. He could hear the crowd behind him shouting, drawn by the ruckus he and the young man had started. This way! Come on! The world around him buzzed with chaos, but suddenly he felt the weight of his responsibility push him through. This was more than escaping danger, it was about forging connections. That bond had grown around a simple meal, igniting hope where hopelessness had resided for too long. A ragged voice shouted from behind, "Don't let them get away." Adrenaline coursed through him. Come on. he yelled over the noise, suddenly turning back toward the young man. We gotta make a run for it. They ran as the echoes of the playground faded, darting through twisting streets, side streets that led into back alleys, until Marcus felt the pulse of reckless adventure. Finally, they turned another corner, panting hard, desperately searching for a way to lose their pursuers. And there they found it, a small community garden, hidden behind a gate adorned with flowers. Inside, Marcus shouted as he pulled the gate open and slipped through, the young man hot on his heels. When they touched down on the soft earth, the scent of fresh flowers filled the air, almost surreal against the chaos outside. We're safe for now, the young man breathed, eyes wide as he took in the vibrant colors around them. Marcus felt relief wash over him, yet the weight of what they had just faced hung heavily in the air. Just then Grace's radiant smile emerged, Zoe and Celia close behind. Thank you. Thank you. Celia cried, tears glistening in her eyes. Marcus knelt to meet Zoe's gaze and smiled. Everything's okay now. We did it, kiddo. Zoe beamed, her innocence and courage shining bright. And we helped Miss Celia. Exactly. We faced that chaos together, he replied, pride swelling in his chest. As the group settled into a quiet reverie beneath the flourishing plants, they marveled at what they had achieved. Maybe it's time for us to start anew, Celia whispered, looking up at the vibrant blossoms around them. Marcus nodded, his heart full. Absolutely. We'll start together. The warmth of the garden embraced them, and in that moment, amidst the blooming flowers and shared stories, they found hope anew, a lifeline that connected their hearts like the roots beneath the soil. No longer alone, they stepped forward into the unknown, hand in hand, ready to face the dawn of a better tomorrow. And just like that, they had transformed. From strangers to family, each combatant stepping away from chaos, binding together to rewrite their futures, knowing that when one shared a meal, it wasn't just about the food. It was an invitation to change lives, to stand together always. Now, in the heart of Chicago, amidst the fragrant blooms, they stood united, ready for the journey ahead. As their laughter rang through the garden, a thought echoed in Marcus. This was not just a moment. It was the beginning of a beautiful, life-changing journey for them all. And as they embraced this new chapter, Marcus knew it would take persistence, hope, and kindness, just like the meal that had started it all, to transform the world around them. But only if they had the courage to hold on to it. This is not just a story, folks. This is a call to action. If you believe in the power of community and kindness, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the incredible stories coming your way. Leave a like to feed the algorithm. It truly helps. Share your feelings about this transformation in the comments. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of hope. Let us keep these stories alive together.